Hallelujah, praise the Lord. My name is Overseer Ken Willie, and I'll be your tutor for today. So today we're going to handle lesson 4, the intermediate part 1. So in this lesson you're going to handle the circle of 2, the circle of 4th, the circle of 5th, major 7 or dominant 7, then the suspended chords, then the relative minor. So I'm going to use the website that we had used the other time. Let's begin the lesson right away. We're going to start with the circle of 2. So with me here on the website, I'm going to start with the circle of 2. So we're going to use this module 5 on this website. It will be shared in the link below. Now let's start. What is the circle of 2? This circle of 2, this is where you play using the interval of 2. For example, today we are going to use the key of F sharp and the key of D. So if you're using the key of F sharp, so on the circle of 2, what we mean is on the key of F sharp. So the notes inside the F sharp, you remember note 1, note 2, note 3, note 4, note 5, note 6, note 7, and note 8. So we are going to use the interval of 2. So 1 and 2. So you play it as chords. So this is note 1, chord 1, and then chord 2, then chord 3, then chord 4. So in the circle of 2, there is nothing much into it. Now let's switch to the circle of 4th. Now here is where things get a little bit interesting. So in this circle of 4 and the circle of 5th, in the circle of 4 you play with a sequence of 1 and note 4 on the same key, and then the circle of 5th you play an interval of 1 and the 5th note on the same key. For example, let's look at this chart below. So on this chart below, you can see clockwise we are going to tackle the circle of 5th, and then the anti-clockwise has the circle of 4th. Now this is what I mean. Let's start with C. Now this is key C. This is C. On this key of C, which is the 5th note in key C, so you count whole step, you remember, then whole step, then half step, then whole step. Now the 5th note on the key of C, this is D. Now you play D. Okay, so if you are in key D, the 5th note, remember how we used to form the whole scale, the major scales. So this is note 1, then note 2, note 3, note 4, and then note 5. So note 5 is A. So you're going to play note A. So this is the circle of 5th. When you look at this circle of 5th on the vice versa, you'll get the circle of 4th. For example, if you are on C, the 4th note is note F. So this is C, D, E, and F. So the 4th note is F, like that. Then while you are in F, you look at the 2nd note or the 4th note. So the 4th note in key of F is 1, 2, 3, 4. You get is B flat. Now when you look at this on this chord cycle, you will find that circle of 4th and the circle of 5th, they are both related. How do you apply this circle of 4th and this circle of 5th? For example, let's start. Let me put this one in the middle, like that. Let's start with the circle of 4. Then, if you have known the circle of 4, the circle of 4th, how do you apply? So let's look at a song here. So the first song we look at is El Shaddai. Let's use the key of F sharp. So El Shaddai starts with number 2. So El Shaddai. So starts with note 2. Note 2 is A flat or G sharp. Now in G sharp, which is the 4th note in the key of G sharp. So in G sharp, this is note 1, note 2, note 3, and then note 4. So you find note 4 is C sharp. So you go from then note 4, that one, and then from C sharp, which is the 4th note in the key of C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, you find this F sharp. So the next chord is F sharp. then in F sharp, which is the fourth note in the key of F sharp, so you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you find it's B. Then from that note, the note of B in the key of B, which is the fourth note on the key of B, so you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you find that it's E. Now let's look at that song from the start. So then from here things change a little bit. Then we go to note 5, the same. Okay, now from here we are going to use the circle of 2. So from 5, this is the key of C sharp. On the C sharp, which is the second note, is the E flat or the D sharp. Then from the D sharp, which is the second note in the key of D sharp, so 1, 2, so you find it's F. And then the second note from the key of F, in the key of F, the second note is G. So from that you find, let's start from top. So El Shaddai, El Shaddai, H2, just still the same by the power of your name, El Shaddai. Now you understand how the circle of fourth works. So you form the circle of fourth. From the note you are, find the fourth note on that key. Okay, now let's shift to the circle of fifth. To the circle of fifth, let's look at even the song that you usually play in the ministry. So for example, I Call on You. Let's choose a song like I Call on You. And then it starts on number 4 in the key of F sharp. Starts with number 4. Now if you are on the note 4, this is B. Now in the key of B, which is the fifth note in the key of B, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. So you find that the fifth note of key B is F sharp. Okay, and then in the F sharp key, the fifth note, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you find that that is C sharp. So you go from B to F sharp, then to C sharp. Then from here you enter the circle of fourth. So from C sharp, which is the fourth note in the circle of C sharp. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you find that the fourth note is F sharp. And then from F sharp you find again the fourth note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You rotate back to B. So you find that the normal worship, the sequence that we use is 4, 5, 5, then 4, 4. So the circle that is used there is 4, 4, 5, 5. Understood? Let's look at the other thing. Let's move to the major 7. Now in the key of F sharp, again in the major 7, so the fact that it's 7, there are two things that you're supposed to note. If the chord is written 7th with a TH at the end, so that means you're going to look at the 7th note of that key. So in F sharp you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So this seventh note, you're going to add it as the fourth note in your chord. So F sharp, so this F sharp, 3 notes, and then you're going to add it as 7th. So this one is used as a passing chord to chord 4, like that. But now here is the twist. If you say 7 without the TH, that means that one is a dominant chord. Now what's a dominant chord? So the 7th note here, for it to become a dominant note, you lower it by a semitone, so it becomes from F to an E. So from your F sharp chord, instead of 7th, F sharp 7th, now this is F sharp 7, also known as the dominant 7, because the 7th note has been lowered by a semitone. Now once you understand that, how do you use it? Majorly, once you use dominant chord, that means you are going to pass to a certain chord. Now in F sharp, we can take, for example, chord 1, then we are going to add the dominant 7 to make it rich, and then you're going to pass it to chord 4, like that. That's how you use a dominant chord. Use a dominant chord as a passing chord. Now let's look at the other thing, the suspended chords. Now suspended chords, I would like to put it in a way that we can all understand. So for example, let's look at the key of F sharp. So this is note 1, note 2, note 3, note 4, and note 5. So if we assume that these 5 notes are rooms, and then room 1 is filled, room 3 is filled, and then room 5 is filled, and then you enter into a hotel room that has 5 rooms, then you are told that room 1 is fully booked, and then room 3 is fully booked, and then room 5 is fully booked. Now which room are available for booking? So that one remains room 2 and room 4. Now those are the only suspended chords that we have officially. So this is suspended 2 and this is suspended 4. That's how you form a suspended chord. The second example is, let's look again at from note 1 to note 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So assuming 1 and 5 are walls, and our prisoner is in room 3. Now the only vacant room between 2, 3, and 4, assuming that the prisoner occupies room 3. So which room remain vacant? Which rooms remain vacant? So that makes it room 2. So that is suspended 2, and room 4, making it suspended 4. Now how do you use the suspended chords? You have to understand that suspended 2 is the most used suspended chord. And how do you use it? So suspended 2 is usually used on behalf of 5. So once you enter chord 5, you don't just press note 5. So you use suspended 2 and then you enter 5 completely. Now let's look at an example. Let's choose a song. You see, instead of chord 5, you use suspended 2 first, and then you finish with the 5. So you press suspended 2 and then note 5. So that's how you play, especially in the special song. So let's look at another example. A song like This Is the Time. So there is that part. We worship you in spirit and in truth. So you find that instead of entering 5 direct, you use suspended 2 first, and then you enter 5. So that's how you use this is suspended 2. Now let's look at the third example. For example, another song I'll use is I Never Let Go. So there's a part that goes never walk away, I never let go. You see, you use that suspended 2 and then you go 5 direct. So that's another example of how you use the suspended 2. Easy. And then the suspended 4 is used, for example, when you are at number 5, then you want to go back to chord 1, so you can pass it as chord 4, then suspended 4, then chord 1. So that's how you use the suspended chord, the sus4. Now let's look at the last part, the relative minor. Now the relative minor scale is one of the most important scale. The reason is the 6th note of that scale, that one becomes the first note. So you have to understand first what that scale entails. So for example, back to the key of F sharp, the sixth note is the E flat or the D sharp. Now let's look at this key first in its major scale. So let's look at D sharp major scale. So this is note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now on the minor scale, we say that the third note, again let me touch the entire scale like that. So remember we say that on the minor scale, the third note you lower it by a semitone. So this is the third note, so you lower it by a semitone, and then the sixth and the seventh you lower it by a semitone. Now the sixth note is this one, so you lower it by a semitone, and then the seventh note you lower it by a semitone. Now you get that scale. Now this scale is exactly as the F sharp, only that you start on note 6. That's why it's very, very important for you to learn the relative minor scale. Now let's look at an example of the songs that use the relative minor scale. Now for example, I'm going to let's look at the song I Enter the Holy of Holies. So it usually starts on the chord 6. So you find that the first chord is 6 and then it finishes up with 6. Like for example, let's look at another song. So Shalom. So Shalom usually starts with a note 6, okay, and then also ends up with note 6. So let's play the chorus. Jerusalem, peace be to you, and then note 4, chord 4, Messiah, then chord 1, then chord 2, then chord 3, then chord 6. Okay, so that's an example of a relative minor scale, a song that is in relative minor scale. Now let's look at another song. Let's look at Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai, Elohim Sebaot. So that's another example of a relative minor scale. So for that one, we have come to the end of our lesson. I know it's very short, but it's very, very important for you to learn the circle of 2, the circle of 4th, the circle of 5th, the major 7, the dominant 7, the suspended, and also the relative minor scale. So thank you so much for those who are following, and let's meet on the next lesson, the intermediate lesson, part 2 of it. So thank you so much. May the Lord bless you.